Welcome to the 2024 Rockwall County Aggie Muster. I am Michael Holmes, class of 2009 and the current president of the Rockwall County A&M Club. Thank you all for being here tonight. We love that we get to be in this new venue. Quick round of applause for our new venue, Spring Hill School. For those of you that don't know where you are, the Rockwall County A&M Club was formed in 1987. The club was formed for the sole purpose of providing scholarships to deserving Rockwall County students who are attending the greatest university in the world. We are so glad you're here. We hope you will join us again as a member. If you're wondering how to do so, you can join online. So make sure you sign up for membership tonight or online. Be on the lookout for events throughout the year. Speaking of events, we have the annual golf tournament coming up at Buffalo Creek on May 17th. It's filling up fast, so please sign up for that soon. More information about the golf tournament can be found at the QR code on your desk. We promise we aren't taking it to Steve Jobs. Or you can just go to our website, rockwallaggies.com. There you can find info on the golf tournament, muster, and other events coming up, such as our happy hours and networking events that we've started to do as well. Our next one is coming up this summer, so please go ahead and sign up on our website as soon as you can. In case you didn't know, we also give out yearly scholarships to deserving students headed to A&M. We've chosen our recipients for this year, but there is still time for next year. So again, thank you all for being here tonight. If you would, please bow your heads. I'm going to lead us in a word of prayer. Our Father, as Aggies come together in all parts of the world, we pause to praise you for the many material and spiritual blessings of the past years. We are humbly grateful for the Aggie heritage and the comradeship that we enjoy. Strengthen this sense of our God-given love and friendship. May it spread to men and women of all schools, nations, and races, and bring people of the world into a new bond of friendship and peace. Fill with your presence the circle of our friendship that is broken by an absence in our local. May we have a reverent appreciation for the great examples and sacrifices given by those of us whom we honor by silver taps. Bless the inspiration of this occasion, that we may be strong in body, keen in mind, friendly in society, and religious at heart. Through your grace we pray. Amen. Amen. And now, as you may have seen up front, we have some food ready, so please feel free to go, if you haven't already, and grab some food, and we will have our speaker joining us shortly. Thank you.
Of Texas A&M in 1950. In the late 50s, polio shots were given out, and then a short time later, a flu pandemic or epidemic broke out, and 20% of the student body was affected with the flu. And at that time, the student body population was approximately 7,500 students. It was a mix of cadets and a mix of non-cadets. The corps uniforms that you see today, the khakis and the senior boots that are so famous, would become the official uniform in the 1950s and would be present to this day. As John Adams Jr., class of 73, has written, the 1950s was a transition for A&M of expansion and of growth of scope. And as the 50s came to a close, A&M architecture students were tasked with the theme, Texas A&M 2000 AD. Well, with that, we're excited to welcome Mr. Harold Craig to the podium. Mr. Craig.
Thanks, Ben. You folks going to have to bear with me tonight. I'll tell you how this came about. It was a big surprise when Ben and Meredith showed up at my house telling me I was the oldest Aggie in the county. a good conversation. And then a day or two later, they called me up and asked me if I wanted to be the muster speaker. You know, I expect the muster speaker to be somebody who's done something outstanding either in his life or at A&M or whatever in the military. But I'm none of those things. I'm an ordinary person. Just I didn't excel in anything, but I did succeed at all the things I've been taught. So I was surprised that they were asking me to do this. And I thought, wow, I don't think I have any business being up in front of a bunch of people speaking like this, right? And then I thought for a little bit more, and I thought, well, I've had such an interesting life, so many different things to what people nowadays experience, how they grew up and all that. So I feel like my life has been an adventure. And so I was all set to come up here and tell you about my adventurous life tonight. And when I first worked up to speak, I came out with about an hour and a half. So I had to work real hard, and I got that down to where, back earlier this week, I got it down to where I had it under 55 minutes. And I thought, well, I thought I was going to be the last part of the program, so that if you got tired and had to leave, you could get on and go. Now that most of the program is after me, I'm going to have to cram that 55 minutes down into something somewhat less. Hope you'll forgive me as I jamming around quite a bit. When what I was going to do first is tell you things that are unique to me that I bet are to most all of you. For instance, how many of you in this room were born in the house that your mother and father were living in at the time? Okay, I see four of us. Now that's pretty good. 4 of us that were, and that happened to me too. All right, how many of you in here have lived in 25 different residences in your life? How many of you have lived in 35 different residences? How many of you have lived in 45 different residences? I have lived in 49. My address now is my 49th in my lifetime. I lived 18 years in one house. So fast moving in all the other places. Okay, enough of the uniqueness stuff like that. How many, well, one more unique thing. How many of you started school barefoot? I did. In fact, I went barefooted to school until it got cold in the winter. I went barefooted to school through the 7th grade. When my mother finally bribed me, I'd always wanted some what we called tennis shoes back then, sneakers now, and I've never had any. We didn't spend things frivolously. That would be a frivolous purchase to me, to purchase sneakers. And so when I got ready to go into the 8th grade, Mother said, "All right, if you'll wear shoes to school, I'll get you some tennis shoes." So that was the first ones I ever had. These things are unique, you know, and life's not like that anymore. People don't go around barefooted to school. I started school, or I was born in a little town, or not a town, but a little community named Robbins, Texas. Some of you may know where that is. It's in Leon County. If you don't know where Leon County is, it lays across I-45, halfway between Dallas and Houston. Centerville is the county seat. It's 7 miles west of this little community of Robbins. Robbins was besieged by a country store, sold everything there that you had a Walmart on, almost access to good place for it. Little country store, and 11 other residences. You stand on my grandparents' front porch and moved on the high spot in the community of Robbins. You stand there on their front porch and see 9 of the 11 residences in the community. That's where I live. Probably a population of Robbins was like 35, something like that. But it was a great place for a little kid like me. I was just a skinny, lively, active, happy little kid. And it was a good place to be. The highlight of that time, though, was a few few years, let's see, how old was I? Was 6 when my parents, my dad quit Texaco that he had been with for 14 years because they were killing me with a hard work schedule. It was changing working hours every 2 weeks. He couldn't take it anymore, so he bought a little country store there in Robbins, and we moved into the back of the store. And that, for 2.5 years we lived there, and that was the light of my life because that store was so interesting. When the grocery trucks would come by and unload, I'd run out there, little bitty kid, you know, I wanted to help carry in the boxes of groceries. I couldn't carry the big ones, but I could carry them. When the gasoline truck would come to fill up our underground tanks with gasoline, in those days, they didn't have automatic measuring equipment for how much gasoline they popped out of that truck. And what you did is you had a big square stick, about this big square, that you stuck down in the tank, and it had hash marks on it, and you see how much gasoline was in there. So they would let me jump on top of the truck, throw it stick down in there and measure it, and they'd see how much gas was there when they got there, and run it down in there again after they got through pumping. So all that kind of stuff was associated with living in that store. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. We only moved away from that because World War II had started. And World War II started in my second year in school, of course. And my dad wanted to get involved in the active part of the war effort and helping build things for the war effort. And he closed the store and moved us to Houston. Well, he didn't like that very well. He didn't like the big city of Houston. He didn't like his long commute. He didn't like the fact that sometimes they were run out of materials to build what he was supposed to be building. And they valued his services so much, they didn't want to lose him. They didn't want to let him go or let him quit. So they would get him to try to hide when the government inspectors would be coming through. And he couldn't stay for that. So after about a year in Houston, we came back to Leon County. I went to 3 different schools in Leon County. The first one where I started was just a mile and a half from Robbins. All those schools that I went to were the same. They were all 2-story, 8 classrooms, an office, and a library. Red brick building. That's what each one of them was. So that was very familiar to me to go from that school where I started at Concord, the one in Jewett, and then later in the 7th grade to the one in Centerville. It was a bigger town, a bigger service station for my dad to run. And so that's where I spent my last 6 years before I became an Aggie. I became familiar with Texas A&M from several ways. One of them was my problem. All of us little boys in rural Texas at that had to take agriculture for 3 years. My ag prof each year would take some of the students down to A&M to see all the ag facilities they had there in the school. Also, at that time, the Humboldt Refining Company sponsored all the Southwest Country football games on the radio every weekend during the football season. No TV in those days, it was just radio. And so we heard about that. A&M was the closest school of the 7 Southwest Country schools to where I lived. So I learned a lot about A&M that way and became interested in it. Plus, having grown up during World War II, I was determined to be in the military. And by going to A&M, I could get a commission and go in the Air Force and fly, which is what I really wanted to do. So I went off to A&M and my newly purchased little 1940 Ford that an old lady in town had been told she couldn't drive anymore. She sold me that 1940 Ford 2-seat automobile for $115. Okay, I went through the cadet corps there, and no matter the freshman, I was a pretty dumb, naive Aggie when I got there, so I learned a lot in those first 2 weeks. Then my sophomore year, I then managed to become the guidon bearer, which all of you that went in the corps know what that is. It's the flag that goes along behind the company or squadron commander when you march. I became the guidon bearer in my junior year. Then I was made the first sergeant of the outfit, and then the same year, on the first sergeant becomes the squadron commander, and I did that. That was sort of the ideal position at A&M Cadet Corps, was to be a squadron company commander. I had the honor of being able to do that. Okay, once, I had a double major, I wound up getting a degree in both petroleum engineering and industrial engineering. But mainly, I, majored in the cadet corps. So I didn't concentrate too much in studying. The honors, all the A's that I got in school, in public schools, didn't occur at A&M. I struggled to maintain what I needed to do, but because I was majoring in the Corps. All right, when you are in the ROTC in college, one of the requirements is that between your junior and senior year, you go to a summer camp at a military base to learn how the military operated, how the bases operated. And you'd never guess where they decided to send me. I was one of a bunch of Aggies that was sent to Las Vegas, Nevada. Like good Aggies did in those days, when a bunch of us went to the same place we carpool. And so 4 of us got together and we're gonna travel. My buddy, that lived in the Dallas area, Paul Miners. And so about 2 weeks after we ended the semester, I drove up on Sunday morning to Paul Miners' house in Dallas. We go over to Fort Worth, picked up Don Wesh, who lived there. Drove from there out to West Texas to a little town of, well, she was going to escape now, I can't think of it. But a little town way out to West Texas where he lived. We spent the night there and then took off on our adventure trip, as we considered it. We were gonna make it a vacation trip and do sightseeing and all that, since we were giving ourselves a week to get there to report in on Saturday at the air base. Well, that first day, we went to Carlsbad, New Mexico. Went through Carlsbad caverns. I had been through it, but most of the others hadn't, so it was new to them. After we went through that day, when we were driving that night, we were gonna drive 24 hours a day, you know. Anytime we weren't stopping to eat or to visit some place like that, we would drive. And it seemed like every time I ever took a trip with any Aggies, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. always wound up either my driving. Couldn't quite figure that out. So as we traveled on that first day then after seeing the caverns, we had made it over into southeast Arizona, near a little town of, I think I've got it written down, but I've kind of forgotten what it was. All right, never mind, it's not important. A little small town in southeast Arizona, and it was, the sun had just come up, and all of a sudden, this beautiful little 1940 Ford convertible that Paul Miners owned, it was, had a fresh paint job, a brand new top on it and everything, ran good. All of a sudden, about 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning, it goes, and that was it, it stopped, it wasn't going anywhere. So we said, we're only halfway there, you know, what are we gonna do now? Well, Paul and I hitchhiked into town to a maintenance shop that had just opened up, got them to take their record out, pull his car into town, and when they took a look at it, sure enough, the news was bad, that engine was shot, it was gonna have to be overhauled. Well, we couldn't wait for it to be done. They would have to bring in parts from somewhere else, you know, and all, it would take a long time. So we had a decision to make. Finally, Paul decided he would sell this beautiful little 1940 Ford convertible. And so we took that money that he got for that, he split it 4 ways, he gave each one of us a fourth of that money, and we would pool it then to buy a jointly owned automobile. The little town of Safford, Arizona, I finally thought of the name. The little town of Safford, Arizona didn't have too much in the way of choices for an automobile to buy. How many of you have ever ridden in a Nash automobile? Nash. I say 2 or 3 around the room. Yeah. We bought a 1940 model Nash 4-door sedan. It was great. It had lots of room for us, you know, so we thought we were on our way. We got in late that day, then we got in and started off. And we didn't get very far before we found out we hadn't made a very good that thing began to heat up. So it had a leak in its cooling system. So we bought ourselves a can and we would fill it up with water. We'd drive an hour, 45 minutes, hour long before we get it heat up. We'd stop, pour water in it. And That's how we started out the night. And when we got that problem solved that way, then as we got a little further, we going up some mountains in southeastern Arizona there, and it just didn't have the power to make it up. So what would a bunch of Aggies do about it? We sang to it. We named the car Reveille. And we would go up the hill, we would sing the Aggie overhead. Next hill we came to, we would sing the Spirit of Aggie. Of course, that didn't really do a lot of good. We were contributing to the effort to get there. We made it through the night, made it up to our next sightseeing tour, which was the Grand Canyon. Visited Grand Canyon, took a tour there, enjoyed that very much. Left there and headed on west then to visit Boulder Dam. I think Boulder Dam had two different names. I think it became Hoover Dam at one point. Hoover. And so we made it to Hoover Dam, we toured Hoover Dam, and then when we finally left there, that's just right after Las Vegas, so we were practically there. We got to Las Vegas, and it was getting toward the end of the week, and we were just looking forward to, with all the anticipation, to get into Las Vegas and enjoy all the benefits there. We got us a motel room on the outskirts of town where they were cheaper than where the casinos were. We took a nap, because we were driving through the night every night, so we took a nap, and got up from the nap, went into Las Vegas, went downtown, parked, walked up to the Golden Nugget. It was a beautiful place. We went to go into the Golden Nugget. When we walked up to the front door, the gate guard says, "Now see your ID." We had no idea you had to be 21 years old. So our spirits just fell. And that just makes this all the time. Well, what we did is we just walked around to the next block, the next casino, walked right in. And you know, we spent that weekend there, and each weekend between our 4 weeks of summer camp, we spent in town that nobody had ever asked for ID again. We spent our 4 weeks in Nellis Air Force Base. It was a very hot summer, and we would be out there having to march to various things that were going to be taught in 114, 115 degree heat. They had us do our calisthenics at 6:30 in the morning before it got hot. But we survived and we enjoyed it. And then we're coming down to our last week there. We knew we had to do something different because Reveille wasn't going to. Two of the four of us had to be in summer school on Monday morning after we were released in Las Vegas at about noon on Saturday. And so we had to do something else. So we went down and we found Crazy Ed's car lot. He bought our cash from us. And we paid Paul back for what he had loaned us to buy that car. And we split up and went with other cadets that were there that were going back. And myself and Paul, I believe it was, got with a guy from Baylor, it's an ROTC cadet from Baylor. And his dad, he lived in the Dallas area. His dad owned an automobile dealership. And so he had driven to summer camp in a brand new 1988 Oldsmobile with the speedometer disconnected. So his father could still sell it. we headed back east, back to the College Station, and made it from Las Vegas to Fort Worth in 19 and a half hours. With the speedometer disconnected. I expect I was driving during my time about 95 miles per hour. We made it back, and I was able to make it into summer school second semester on Monday morning. All right, I went through that. Then our second trip that I want to tell you about occurred about 2 months later, and it's already been referred to. That was 1954. What year was that? Mayor Bryant's first year at A&M. He had taken his football team out to West Texas Junction, put them through hell out there, lost about a third of his players, quit, or that he sent them home. But he came out of there with some players that wanted to play football. They were tough. Well, that didn't necessarily mean they were going to win a lot of football games. So they lost the first 2 games of the season. the third game of the season was gonna be in the University of Georgia, in Athens, Georgia. When that Friday afternoon came, some of us were talking about, we sure would like to go to that game. They'd already lost those first two games, maybe they're gonna win in Georgia. So myself, my roommate, my longtime best friend, John Spid, who's referred to, I think, on the information sheet, and one junior from my outfit, the four of us carpooled in to drive to Georgia. We rushed into the student loan office and got enough money to buy gas. Some of them had money, but I didn't, and the others did. And we got enough money on the loan. We took off at 6 p.m. on Friday afternoon for a 1 or 2 p.m. football game the next day in Athens, Georgia. Well, as we went across there, 3 to 6 a.m., remember that's when my drive. Okay, about the time the sun came up, some farmers' chickens decided they're gonna cross the road. I hit 2 of those chickens. So we stopped and looked out. We didn't know which house they came from or anything, anybody to apologize to or whatever. So we just went into the nearest service station, took a water hose, and washed all the chicken guts and eggs off of the grill, off of the radiator of the car. And we made it on into Athens. When we got to Athens, we went into a Gulf Surf Service and used their restrooms to change in our uniforms and then drove up to the stadium. Well, the University of Georgia Stadium sits in a bowl, and as you come up to it, your ground rises up to the height of the upper seats in the stadium. We got there and we'd already made up how we were gonna get in. We had no tickets. We knew we'd be able to get in some way. When I took PT in my sophomore year, I took wrestling. My wrestling partner was the man that Taylor Green. He was the only other one that was skinny enough to be my wrestling partner. He was an equipment manager for the football team. So I said, he'll be able to get us some tickets or get us in. We got there, we go up to the gate, and the gate ticket keeper asked for our tickets, and I told him, I said, my good friend Taylor Green is one of the managers in the football team down there. He has our tickets. You know, Aggies don't lie to cheat. Sometimes when it's in your favor, you prevaricate a little bit. When I prevaricate, I said, my good friend Taylor Green down there with the football team has our tickets. And the guy looks at me like, you think I'm crazy? I believe that, sir. But we kept it, we got sincere enough with him that he said, okay, I'll take one of you down there to get your tickets. So he took me down to the stadium. I get down, and when you get down to the lowest level of the stadium, there's a big high hedge all the way around the field at the University of Georgia Stadium. And from the lower level, we couldn't see the bench over there where the football players and the manager would be. So I turned around, there were about 30, 35 Aggies, a few rows up, and they made the trip. And I called up to one of them and said, can you see Taylor Green over there on the bench anywhere? And I need to contact him. He said, well, what do you need? I said, well, he has our tickets to the game. That's a little prevarication. He has our tickets to the game. And this guy was wearing senior boots. And he said, well, how many tickets you need? I said, 4. He pulled out about 8 tickets out of the bag. Not only did that drop the jaw of the guy that had taken me down there, but going back up to the top of the stadium, me waving for me. We got into the game. Okay, remember, we hadn't eaten any meals now. We just kept driving, and when we stopped getting gas, we did slacks, and that's all we had. So we were starved at that time, but luckily, a hot dog vendor came by before too long, and we were able to get some hot dogs. Okay, that game, I don't know how much you know about this, but that game against the University of Georgia was a scoreless game for the first 3 quarters. In the 4th quarter, finally, A&M got a turnover, made a touchdown, didn't get the extra point. That made the score 6-0. That's the way that game ended. Wow. Okay, when the game was over, went out to a cafeteria and filled up, and people around us would finish their meals and leave, and maybe do a couple rolls left. Slice of pie, maybe, if you got lucky. And so we finished our meal that way. So it was time to head back to A&M, because we want to try to get back by CQ time when study time begins at 7:30 in the evening. Back in A&M on Sunday night, and weren't sure we could do that. But we headed out to go that way, but I said, have any of y'all ever been in Florida? None of the four of us have ever been in Florida. So instead of going due west, we headed south. Went through Tallahassee and then headed west again from there. We made it through that night then and got to New Orleans around noon time. And remember, this is Sunday. Then when we found down on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, we found a good Italian restaurant and had our first really good meal before we left home. We took off from there and headed on back. Well, we didn't make it by 7:30, but we weren't too concerned because 3 of us were seniors and the other one was a junior. And even if the KK, they still call them KKs, campus cops.
Yeah.
The KKs didn't catch us going in, and we all slipped back into the door and made it in that night. And we were so glad that we went to that football game. You know what? That was the only game that Bear Bryant and the Aggies won that year. Okay, I graduated, I went into the Air Force, went through pilot training. First 4 years, I flew B-47s, and I'm sure there's not a half dozen of you in here even know what a B-47 is. But if you see all these swept wing airliners you have now, the B-47 was the forerunner of that. It was the first large swept wing airplane. And I flew that for 4 years. Spent most of the rest of my career flying C-130s, 4-engine turboprop. Retired from the Air Force, went back to my civilian profession as a petroleum engineer. And so that about ends my story. I had to jam this down a lot. When I first found out I was going to be giving this address tonight, I came out with a talk about an hour and a half long. I said, okay, that's not going to do it. So I got it cut down to where it was about 55 minutes. And then I get here and I find out that I'm not going to be the last speaker when people get up and leave if they get tired of listening to me. So you're just going to have to bear with me while I go through all this stuff at a rapid pace and get it over with. And I want to end and leave you with a paraphrasing and quotation by our president. I'm not talking about the president of the United States. I'm talking about our president of Texas A&M. He says that a true Aggie is the kind of person that people like to follow. So I challenge each of you, let's all go out there and live our lives being the kind of person that people like to follow. There you go. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Craig. Pleasure. We sure appreciate hearing the stories of the days of past, and thank you for sharing the remembrances there. On behalf of the Rockwall County A&M Club, we wanted to present you with this print from Benjamin Knox as a gift to you and as a thank you for being our muster speaker this year as well. And then as well, you heard the announcement about Rockwall's golf tournament coming up, and you and Mr. Schmid have an open invitation to come play on our behalf at the Rockwall County A&M Golf Club tournament.
The first day of freshman year at A&M, a bunch of us engineering students were standing at the back of the chemistry lecture room while they assigned seats. And we Aggies all have to meet each other, you know, so I met this one guy, his name was John Schmidt. Asked him, and when he said where he was from, he was from Houston. I said, what high school did you go to? He said, Jeff Davis. I said, oh, my cousin just graduated from Jeff Davis. One week after I graduated from high school, I don't think it says that I'm a valedictorian, but that's no big deal. How many of you have ever been in a class of only 19 people? That's what, so being valedictorian of class, no big deal. Anyway, the week after I graduated, my cousin was graduating in Houston, so I went down to her graduation. And I didn't know him at the time and didn't meet him, but John Smith was the one graduating there too. So I had been at his graduation. And after that, we were good friends that all the way through A&M. Our Air Force careers almost paralleled each other. We were stationed in the same place 2 or 3 times. And he's still my buddy, and we still play golf once a week, weather permitting there.
All right.
Hullabaloo, connect, connect, hullabaloo, connect, connect. Goodbye to Texas University. So long to the orange and the white. Good luck to dear old Texas Aggies. They are the boys who show the real old fight. The eyes of Texas are upon you. That is the song they sing so well. Sounds like hell! So goodbye to Texas University. We're gonna beat you all to chicka-ricka-rum, rough stuff, Texas A&M. Goodbye to Texas University. So long to the orange and the white. Good luck to dear old Texas Aggies. They are the ones who show the real old fight. The eyes of Texas are upon you. That is the song they sing so well. Sounds like hell! So goodbye to Texas University. We're gonna beat you all to chicka-ricka-rum, rough stuff, Texas A&M. Song varsity's horns off, song varsity's horns off, song varsity's horns off. Short, hey, varsity's horns are sawed off, varsity's horns are sawed off, varsity's horns are sawed off. Short, hey.
Century-old roots provide the basis of muster as Aggies know it today. It has changed, yet the spirit in which it was established remains the same. Since the founding of Texas A&M, every Aggie has lived and become a part of the Aggie spirit. What we feel today is not just the camaraderie of fellow Aggies, it's the spirit of hundreds of thousands of Aggies who've gone before us and who will come after us. Muster is how the spirit is remembered and celebrated. It has always continued to unite Texas A&M and the Aggie family. A&M may change, but the spirit never will. In the beginning, Aggies gathered together on June 26, 1883, to live over and again their college days, and victories and defeats won and lost upon the drill field and in the classroom. By April 21st, 1903, the annual gathering evolved into a celebration of Texas independence on San Jacinto Day. These early meetings included field games and banquets for Aggies to reflect and celebrate their memories of Aggieland. Let every alumni answer the roll call, wrote the former students. It was not until 1922, however, that April the 21st became the official day of events for all Aggies. Thus, the annual tradition of muster was born. The March 1923 Texas Aggie urged, if there is an A&M man in 100 miles of you, you are expected to get together, eat a little, and live over the days you spent at Texas A&M College of Texas. Bigger and better. Still remembering and honoring the time spent in Aggieland, the tradition of muster has grown in strength, meaning, and spirit. By 1929, the meetings had spread worldwide, and in 1942, Aggie Muster gained international recognition. 25 men, led by General George Moore of 1908, mustered during the Japanese siege of the Philippine island of Corregidor. Knowing that muster might soon be called for them, these Aggies embodied the commitment, dedication, and friendship that is the essence of the Aggie spirit. They risked their lives to honor their beliefs and values. That small group of Aggies out on an outpost during World War II inspired what has developed into one of the greatest traditions. Today, muster is celebrated in more than 300 places worldwide, with the largest ceremony taking place on the Texas A&M campus in College Station. The ceremony brings together more Aggies worldwide on one occasion than any other event.
I'm Dennis Lewis, class of 1979. This is the roll call for the action. In many lands inclined this April day, proud sons of Texas A&M unite. Our loyalty to country school we pay, our seal our pact with bond of common might. We live again those happy days of yore, on campus yield and classroom hall at drill. Fond memory brings a sigh, but nothing more. Now we are men, and life is one great thrill. On Corridor 82, years ago today, a group of gallant Aggies led by Moore held simple rites which to us all doth say, the spirit shall prevail or cannon roar. They thought of home and all we hold most dear, where they are now, those boys we knew so well. Ask of the winds, let smile repress a tear, think only of their glory when they fail. Corregidor, forever with more a hallowed name, countless sons of Texans yet unborn, symbolic like it stands for deathless fame, of shrines sublime to resurrection morn. Softly call the rooster, let comrade answer here, their spirits hover around us, as if to bring us cheer. Mark them present in our hearts, we'll meet some other day. There is no death but life eternal for heroes such as they.
In this ceremony, we honor the memory of fellow A&M men and women whose death prevents their answering roll call at this annual muster. The roll is a symbolic roll call of all students and former students whom death has taken from our ranks, but whose memory lives on in our hearts. As each name is called, a comrade will answer here. William Alexander, class of 1950.
Here.
Roy Travis King, class of 1950.
Here.
Mortimer Sullivan, class of 1951.
Here.
Dorrance Hoffland, class of 1954.
Here.
Dr. Carl Weidenbach, class of 1955.
Here.
Daniel Wheat, class of 1955.
Here.
James Earl Rutter, class of 1962.
Here.
William Pry II, class of 1962.
Here.
Robert Dodd Bates, class of 1962.
Here.
Charles Ray King, class of 1963.
Here.
William Bame, class of 1965.
Here.
Captain Donald Robinson, class of 1965.
Here.
Thomas McWhirter, class of 1969.
Here.
Brent Lemberg, class of 70.
Here.
Captain Stephen Prendergrass, class of 1975.
Here.
Kathleen Jennings Mills, class of 1978.
Here.
Timothy Rafferty, 78. Luis Salazar Jr., class of 1978.
Here.
David Albert, 78.
Here.
William Hoog, class of 1978. Danny J., class of 78. Here. Adrian Correa, 1978. Dr. Douglas Ward, class of 1978. Dr. Barbara Cruz, class of 1978. Deborah Clayton, class of 78. Dennis Williamson, class of 78. Lisa Roll, class of 78. William Carroll, class of 78. Janet Marie Hass, class of 78. Dale Carlisle, class of 78. Dr. Dale Hembry Jr., class of 1978. Melissa Foyle, class of 78. Marie Canning, class of 78. Edmundo Hernandez Sr., class of 78. Kenneth Wayne Von Gotten, class of 80. Here. Fred Schultz Jr., class of 1983.
Here.
Jennifer Humes, class of 1991. Frederick Thornberry, class of 1997.
Here.
Clayton Francisco, class of 1998. Dr. Nathan Vermdahl, class of 1998.
Here.
Kimberly DeWally, class of 2004.
Here.
Dane Plumley, class of 2004.
Here.
And we have a special request for Mrs. Dorothy Hopkins, who's the secretary for the Fighting Texas Aggie Band for numerous years.
Here.
Here.
In Memoriam by Lieutenant Colonel David Harrigan, class of 1968. We stood a little taller and a little prouder then when we heard the call of muster and the roll call just begin. We stood there all together and wiped away the tears when our names were called out softly and answered with a here. And so we've joined together with our brothers of the past to make our final resting place at Aggie Land our last. We take a toast to our brotherhood wherever they may roam. For us, the trek is over. Aggie Land, we're coming home.
The last Corps trip. It was Judgment Day in Aggie Land, and tenseness filled the air. All knew there was a trip at hand, but not a soul knew where. Assembled on the drill field was the world-renowned 12th man, the entire Fighting Aggie team, and the famous Aggie band. And out front with the Royal Guard, the viewing party stood. St. Peter and his angel staff were choosing bad from good. First he surveyed the Aggie team, and in terms of an angel swore, by Jove, I do believe I've seen this gallant group before. I've seen them play since way back when, and they've always had the grit. I've seen them lose, and I've seen them win, but I've never seen them quit. No need for us to tarry here, deciding upon their fates. 'Tis plain as the halo on my head that they've opened heaven's gates. And when the 12th man heard this, they let out a mighty yell that echoed clear to heaven and shook the gates of hell. And what group is this upon the side? St. Peter asked his aide. That swell is at to burst with pride when we our judgment made. Why, sir, that's the Cadet Corps that's known both far and wide for backing up their fighting team, whether they won, lost, or tied. Well then, said St. Peter, it's very plain to me that within the realms of heaven they should spend eternity. And have the Texas Aggie band at once commence to play. For their fates too, we must decide upon this crucial day. And the drum major, so hearing, slowly raised his hand and said, boys, let's play the Spirit for the last time in Aggie Land. And the band poured forth the anthem in notes both bright and clear, and 10,000 Aggie voices sang the song they hold so dear. And when the band had finished, St. Peter wiped his eyes and said, it's not so hard to see they're meant for paradise. And the Colonel of the Cadet Corps said as he stiffly shook his stand, it's just another Corps trip, boys. We'll just march in behind the band.
The 2024 Texas A&M muster for Rockwall County is now complete. I charge you each to remain firm in your loyalty to your country and your God, to keep warm in your hearts your affection for each other and for our alma mater. This muster is dismissed until April 21st, 2025, and may God be with us all until we meet again. Thank you all for being here.